Esther, chapter 2. After these things, at the ceasing of the fury of King Ahasuerus, he has remembered Vashti, and that which she did, and that which has been decreed concerning her. And servants of the king, his ministers, say, Let them seek for the king young women, virgins, of good appearance. And the king appoints inspectors in all provinces of his kingdom. And they gather every young woman, virgin, of good appearance, to Shushan the palace, to the house of the women, to the hand of Hegai, eunuch of the king, keeper of the women, and to give their purifications. And the young woman who is good in the eyes of the king reigns instead of Vashti. And the thing is good in the eyes of the king, and he does so. A man, a Jew, there has been in Shushan the palace, and his name is Mordecai, son of Jair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been removed from Jerusalem with the expulsion that was removed with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, removed. And he is supporting Hadassah. She is Esther, daughter of his uncle, for she has neither father nor mother, and the young woman is of beautiful form and of good appearance. And at the death of her father and her mother, Mordecai has taken her to himself for a daughter. And it comes to pass in the word of the king, even his law, being heard, and in many young women being gathered to Shushan the palace, to the hand of Hegai, that Esther is taken to the house of the king, to the hand of Hegai, keeper of the women. And the young woman is good in his eyes, and she receives kindness before him, and he hurries her purifications and her portions to give to her, and the 7 young women who are provided to give to her from the house of the king. And he changes her and her young women to a good place in the house of the women. Esther has not declared her people and her family, for Mordecai has laid a charge on her that she does not declare it. And during every day Mordecai is walking up and down before the court of the house of women, to know the welfare of Esther and what is done with her. And in the drawing near of the turn of each young woman to come in to King Ahasuerus, at the end of their being to her, according to the law of the women, 12 months, for so they fulfill the days of their purifications, 6 months with oil of myrrh, and 6 months with perfumes, and with the purifications of women. And with this the young woman has come in to the king. All that she says is given to her, to go in with her out of the house of the women to the house of the king. In the evening she has gone in, and in the morning she has turned back to the second house of the women, to the hand of Shaashgaz, eunuch of the king, keeper of the concubines. She does not come in any more to the king, except the king has delighted in her, and she has been called by name. And in drawing near of the turn of Esther, daughter of Abihail, uncle of Mordecai, whom he had taken to himself for a daughter, to come in to the king, she has not sought a thing, except that which Hegai, eunuch of the king, keeper of the women, says. And Esther is receiving grace in the eyes of all seeing her. And Esther is taken to King Ahasuerus, to his royal house, in the 10th month, it is the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loves Esther above all the women, and she receives grace and kindness before him above all the virgins, and he sets a royal crown on her head, and causes her to reign instead of Vashti. And the king makes a great banquet to all his heads and his servants, the banquet of Esther, and has made a release to the provinces, and gives gifts as a memorial of the king. And in the virgins being gathered a second time, then Mordecai is sitting in the gate of the king. Esther is not declaring her family and her people, as Mordecai has laid a charge on her. And the saying of Mordecai, Esther is doing, as when she was truly with him. In those days when Mordecai is sitting in the gate of the king, has Bigthan been angry, and Teresh, 2 of the eunuchs of the king, the keepers of the threshold. And they seek to put forth a hand on King Ahasuerus. And the thing is known to Mordecai, and he declares it to Esther the queen. And Esther speaks to the king in the name of Mordecai. And the thing is sought out and found, and both of them are hanged on a tree. And it is written in the scroll of the Chronicles before the king.